Have you ever pondered about those people who have mysteriously vanished without leaving a trace? Here are some of the most baffling missing person cases that will leave you wondering where in the world could they be. Amelia Earhart. On July 1937, Amelia Earhart, an American aviator and the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, disappeared over the Pacific Ocean near Howland Island while attempting to circumnavigate the globe. Only 2 days earlier, she had left Papua New Guinea and was nearing the end of her journey. But when her plane failed to land as expected, search parties were organized but found no sign of Earhart or her navigator, Fred Noonan. Although there was extensive media coverage at the time, interest in the case began to fade after a few months. Yet Earhart's disappearance has continued to captivate people's imagination and inspired numerous books, films, and theories for decades. Many believe that she actually landed safely, but was captured by the Japanese, while others think she crashed into the ocean and died. Despite all these theories, her remains have never been found, and the case remains unsolved. D. B. Cooper, on November 24, 1971. D. B. Cooper hijacked a Boeing 727 and received $200,000 in ransom money. He then parachuted out of the aircraft and vanished without a trace. Now, here's what makes this case so peculiar. After getting the ransom money, Cooper gave instructions to the pilots to fly to Mexico City. And when the plane reached a certain altitude, he calmly opened the rear exit and jumped out. Despite the freezing cold temperature, the darkness, and the lack of a parachute, not a soul has seen him since. The FBI did launch an investigation and even offered a reward for information leading to Cooper's whereabouts. However, despite numerous tips and leads, the case remains unsolved, and it is still unclear whether Cooper survived the jump or if his body was found. Jimmy Hoffa. In the early 1960s, Jimmy Hoffa was the most powerful labor leader in America. He led the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, a powerful union representing truck drivers and other workers. However, by the 1960s, Hoffa had become increasingly controversial due to allegations of corruption and ties to organized crime. As a result, he was investigated by the newly appointed U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. Hoffa was eventually convicted of jury tampering and mail fraud and sentenced to 13 years in prison, while many suspected that his enemies in the mafia had orchestrated his downfall. Hoffa himself believed that he was the victim of a political witch hunt. After serving 6 years, he was released in 1971 and quickly resumed his old habits. He went on a nationwide speaking tour, threatened to expose government corruption, and tried to regain control of the Teamsters Union. But just 4 years later, he disappeared without a trace. The last confirmed sighting of Hoffa was on July 30th, 1975, when he left a restaurant in Detroit after meeting with 2 known mobsters. Despite numerous investigations and a massive manhunt, his body was never recovered, and his case remains open to this day. Some believe that he was killed by the mafia, while others believe that he faked his own death and went into hiding. Roanoke Colony. The Roanoke Colony is one of the most mysterious episodes in North American history. In 1585, a group of 115 English settlers arrived on the coast of what is now North Carolina. They established a settlement and began exploring the area, but they soon encountered hostility from the local Native Americans. By 1590, the colony had been abandoned and all 115 settlers had vanished without a trace. When the supply ship arrived to resupply the colonists, they found the settlement deserted. The only clue to what had happened was the word Croatoan carved into a post. This has left historians baffled for centuries. There have been numerous theories proposed to explain the disappearance of the Roanoke colonists. One popular theory is that the settlers were absorbed into the local Native American tribes. Another theory is that they were all killed by disease or starvation. However, these are just theories and no one knows for sure what happened to them. George Mallory. In 1924, British mountaineer George Mallory set out to become the first person to reach the summit of Mount Everest. He summited Everest with his climbing partner Andrew Irvine. But during their descent, they disappeared and were never seen again. It wasn't until 1999 that Mallory's frozen body was found just below the summit, providing closure to one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century. The discovery of his body answered the question of whether Mallory had reached the summit. But it raised even more questions about his disappearance. How had he managed to survive for nearly 75 years in such harsh conditions? What had caused him to die? And why had his body been preserved so well? Although Mallory's body was eventually found, the mystery of his disappearance continues to fascinate mountaineers and adventurers to this day. Mary Celeste. In 1872, the Mary Celeste was discovered off the coast of the Azores Islands in the Atlantic Ocean. What made this discovery so strange was that the ship was found to be in good condition and fully stocked with food and water, but there was no crew on board. The ship had sailed from New York to Genoa, Italy, and was carrying a cargo of industrial alcohol and a crew of 7 men. However, when the ship was boarded, it was found that the crew was missing and their belongings were left on board. There was no sign of a struggle, and nothing appeared to be out of place. One possible explanation is that the crew abandoned ship due to bad weather or mechanical problems. Another theory is that the crew was taken off the ship by pirates. However, there is no evidence to support either of these theories, and the case remains a mystery. From these stories, we see that some people disappear because of unfortunate circumstances, while others vanish purposely to escape their old life and start anew, regardless of the reason behind their disappearance. These cases serve as reminders of the fragility of human life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Let us know in the comments which case left you the most puzzled. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more intriguing content. See you next time.